Alright guys, 1 second here while I finish setting everything up. I'm just opening up ZBrush real quick and then we can go ahead and get started, I think. As long as you guys can hear me with my mic, it looks like my audio levels are okay based on what I'm seeing on my end. Let me know if you guys can hear me and let me know if you guys can see me. And ZBrush is all set up now, it looks like, so I think we're ready to go ahead and jump in to our sculpt for today for hashtag Sculptember. If anybody else is participating, feel free to post your work in the ZBrush Discord if you're looking for critique or feedback or anything like that. And before I forget, I can show you what we're going to be working on for today, or at least for this first part of our stream here. I wanted to do something easy first, something pretty simple and fun, so that maybe some new people could follow along, as well as I wanted to keep it simple so that I could talk a lot and answer as many questions as I can while I'm working. So let's see, we got in here Sandro, Enrique, and Katie. Hello all. Hi-yo. I'm not sure if that was supposed to be Ohio, but I'll take it. What's up? What's going on, guys? Let me pull up the image here real quick. Boom. I thought it would be fun to do a little coughing. He's pretty simple, which is what I was saying. And oh my gosh, there's oh gosh, what's that character's name? Anybody remember? It's like Princess, Space Princess or something. I can't remember. She's fun. She or he is fun. So yes, just like a simple, fun little coughing. And while I'm working, if you guys have questions, throw them down in the comments section, like I said, and I'll answer as many as I can while I'm working here. And maybe we'll utilize some like see-through mode or something fun like that. But I think we can go ahead and get started. Let's see here. Is there a link to the Discord? Yes, there is a link to the ZBrush Discord that I run. We're close to 1,000 people, which is pretty crazy. I only started it, gosh, not even a year ago, January, I think, of this year. But yeah, we got almost 1,000 people. If you go to if you go to YouTube and you go to my channel, not your my channel, but my channel, and up here, let's see. Oh, actually, I'm sorry, I'm incorrect. If you go to the About page on my YouTube channel, you'll see this ZBrush Discord channel link here. If you click on that, it'll let you join up to the ZBrush Discord channel. And we're almost at, I checked this morning, and I think it was like 970 or 80. It was really close to 1,000, which is really cool. That'll be awesome when we hit that. But yep, let's go ahead and start on our derpy little coughing boy here, and we can go. And if I don't see your question while I'm working, I apologize. Just like pop it in the chat again in another couple minutes, and I'll try and get to them all. I just realized that you're the admin of the Discord ZBrush channel. Yes, that is correct. Let's see here. There's my name. I'm the one boy up there. If you guys are looking at this, I think I got mentioned here in the share your work. Let's see real quick. You can @ Follygon to get his attention. I'll take a look at that later. So this is a ZBrush fan Discord. We have, like I said, about 1,000 people. But I'll also give a quick shout out to the official ZBrush Discord, which I do not manage in any way. I'm not affiliated with that. This is a fan. You can check out the welcome page. We are just a Discord channel managed by the community. And like I said, we have about 1,000 people. I think we're a lot bigger, actually, than the official ZBrush Discord channel. But if you're looking for community and you're looking for questions to get answered, I feel like that's a pretty good place to go. Seems like a lot of people have kind of taken to that one a bit more. So we can go ahead and get started. Like I said, We're working on coughing for the people that are just popping in here, the new people that haven't seen. I want to keep it simple, fast, answer some questions while I go, and if we can finish it quick enough, maybe you guys can suggest another quick little character or Pokemon or something for us to work on. Maybe another simple Pokemon would be fun. So I just want to give some simple little sphere eyes here for our coughing. I actually kind of like this cute little plushy coughing, so I'm gonna kind of go for this little derpy style. Or I saw another one here. Where'd he go? He had some derpy little cute eyes like that. So we'll try to go for a similar style. So I'm just using my transpose tool here to move and scale another sphere. And of course, there's many ways to scale objects in ZBrush. You even have the size slider down here. Can mess with that. It's just kind of whatever you're feeling at the moment, whatever works better for your workflow, whatever's faster. By no means is one better than the other, but one might be faster for you to do than the other. So we can go ahead and let's see here. We want to mirror and weld, and I want to turn my X symmetry back on. The shortcut for that, for activating and turning on and off symmetry, is just the X key. I don't even have to click or do anything. I'm just pressing X on my keyboard. That's a really quick way that you can turn that on and off if you need to do that. So if you're scaling or doing anything like that. So let's see here, coughing. Here is the image. I found it. Let me see. I found it on my other page. This guy. He's cute. He's fun. I thought we can even maybe sculpt some little fart clouds. I don't know if coughing farts out of all of his body holes. But that would mean that every little nobule thing on coughing is just a butt then. So I don't know if that's if that's a good thing or a bad thing. For the mouth here, we can do a Boolean subtraction. We can mask it out. There's a lot of different stuff that we can do. I'm going to Dynamesh it though, so I can get rid of this pole. And I'm just Dynameshing it at the default 128. Dynamesh works depending on the scale of your object, but I'm at the default 2x2x2 size, so you're going to have about 45,000 polys if you're doing that same thing. Again, I was talking about that see-through mode, so I could kind of line that up if I wanted to with this little coughing here. And if you notice, he's a little bit squashed. He's not perfectly round here, so maybe we can do a little transpose action and pull him out like that, get a little bit of a squashed look to him, as well as line up our eyes. So this see-through mode, transparent mode is what I was going to say. Up here in the top right, you can see where it says see-through. You can just slide this all the way up or down or wherever you need it. I typically just kind of drag it to where I find a good spot for it. It's normally right around 30 or so, just depending on colors and contrast and how difficult it is to see what's going on. So we can kind of play around with these a little bit. There's a little bit of a perspective going on here. He's turned to the side, so it's making the eyes obviously not perfectly symmetrical in the sketch. So we can kind of mess with that by rotating our image a little bit, or our 3D model. From there we can see how much more we want to space these out. And not only space them out, I'm going to space them out a little bit farther than they would be, because when I scale these, it's going to try to shrink them in towards that central x-axis. So we'll do that a little bit. I can turn see-through back off, and we have our beady little coughing eyes in place there pretty easily. Can maybe throw some toy plastic and let's go with black. So we got some shiny black plasticky eyes in there going on, and we can continue on with doing a mouth and a bunch of other stuff. So real quick here, looks like we have a few new people popping in here. If you guys are just coming in You can check out, I mentioned earlier, the ZBrush Discord. It's on my YouTube channel on my About page if you want to post your own Sculptember work in there. If you want to follow along and ask questions or anything like that, you can post them in the comments or do it over there as well. So back to our KOFFING see-through mode. Let's line them back up. For this mouth, I can do a mask. And by using the just the mask pen, if you're using the mask pen, you can draw. I'm sorry, let's turn that off real quick. You can draw a mask on here, and you could attempt to draw that square mask. But also, if you mask off of the canvas with your mask pen tool, you can get a bit of a marquee selection here. That's going to mask out whatever you do there. So we could draw a little box, and then from there I can hold the space bar and I can move that around, and we can kind of just place it wherever we want. And of course that will mask to the other side of your model there, so just kind of keep that in mind. That is a very nice way for getting perfectly geometrically rectangular or square masks going on in your model. But of course that's dependent on the resolution. So you can see here we got some warble going on. We can subdivide a few times to alleviate some of that. So let's, I'll just subdivide up to 2.8 million. It's a lot, but that'll be fine for our purposes. So let's go back to see-through mode right here. And we can go ahead and draw out our mask, hold that space bar, put it into place, and shrink our mask into position, just like that. And obviously that's not perfect, but it gives us a really great start. And I can remove that mask from the back side, and I held Control and Alt, which is a negative mask. So that's going to clear the mask wherever I put that marquee selection there. Quick shout out from B Lanes. I want to thanks for all your contributions to the ZBrush sculpting revolution. The help is much appreciated. Thank you, I appreciate that, B Lanes. That's very nice of you. I don't feel like I do a crazy ton. I'm just trying to improve and work like everybody else and get better. But when I get the chance, like it's Sculptember right now, we can do some fun stuff and all hang out together and do some sculpting. I don't know if anybody's even following along, or if this is, like I said, I'm trying to keep stuff simple today, but if it's a little too simple for most of you, I apologize. But if you're working on your own stuff, I'd love to see it. I'm always interested in seeing everybody else's work and what people are working on. But thank you very much. And the ZBrush sculpting revolution, I like that a lot. I personally believe that one day ZBrush is going to be as well known, maybe not ZBrush, but maybe ZBrush or whatever comes next. I think it's going to be kind of like what Photoshop was, and I do kind of believe this to a degree, that ZBrush will eventually kind of be well known in more general circles, and I think that day isn't too far off. And I think it'll be pretty cool when that happens. I had X symmetry turned off when I made this mouth, and that is not actually a huge problem. Now that I think about it, I wish I would have had it turned on, but it's not the end of the world. I'm gonna create some poly groups here and get these into place. And just kind of widen out this mouth inner area, which is what is called a mouth bag. If you've ever 3D modeled a head before, and let's say you're working in Dynamesh, when you're working with lips, if they're closed, and you Dynamesh, of course they're going to merge together. So what you'll do is you'll remesh your object and create that inner mouth cavity, which is what we have here. And that inner mouth cavity is called a mouth bag. And it's a pretty weird term when you think about it, but it makes sense for what it is, I guess. Could have thought of a little bit of a better name. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm going to be remeshing and doing a bunch of stuff to this, so it's not the end of the world. Real quick here, a couple more comments. Consider sculpting things and selling 3D prints of your work. Rex, that is a beautiful idea. I would love to sell 3D prints of my work, and I've been asked by a couple people if I've thought about doing that. And the answer is yes. I think that's an awesome idea. I would love to. But I personally don't feel okay selling something that is like Pokemon related like this, or fan art related to the extent of I know a lot of people sell fan art, but I personally don't feel super comfortable doing that. And if I end up doing a bunch of sculpts for Sculptember, which I'm trying to do, and I do some little things that are easy, I'll throw some stuff up on Shapeways at the end of the month, and maybe we can go from there. If people keep asking me for little things, maybe we can do that. But the truth is that they're pretty expensive, as is. So I'm not sure if anybody would be interested. Like, I was showing off this little Bulbasaur thing. This, to get printed from Shapeways, it's hollow on the bottom, you can see that. This little guy to get printed from Shapeways was $7.50 for just the print, and then shipping is $5, or I think it was $6, or whatever. It was, by the time, like after tax and everything, it was closer to $15 just for this little guy. And I just made that for fun. I made Bulbasaur, Charmander, and Squirtle, and I was like thinking about selling them, but then one, I was like, it's not my intellectual property. I know some people do that, but I don't feel super okay doing that. And two, it's like almost $15 for this little tiny 1-inch figure. Who would ever want that? I almost didn't even pay for it myself, and I was the one who made it. And I was like, it's pretty expensive for a print. Maybe I'll just, I'll hold off this time. But if it's something that people are just crazy about, maybe, we'll see. Craig says, hey, what's going on, Craig? Thanks for coming to the stream. Hope some of this stuff can be helpful for you as I work. Just using my Z-modeler brush down here to crease this shape. I'm going to be making a tooth out of this cylinder. And the way I'll be doing that, I'll show you in a second. It's going to be pretty simple. We're just going to use our mask lasso to mask out that bottom point. And that's not what I actually wanted to do. I want to mask, how do I want to do this? I want to mask every point except for that bottom ring so that I can pull it up like so. And with that, I should be able to make a tooth. So bring that down. You can see that the geometry here is not complying very well, and when I kind of turn on my subdivision level there, you can see it do some kind of funky things. A way we can kind of fix that is if I mask out this rung and bring it down. Should have done this first, and then kind of scale it in. Let's undo. Let's go back to where we had it at a cylinder. And instead of sliding this up, what we'll do is we will scale it in. So should have done this first. That's my fault. But thankfully we have undo. So ZBrush is very nice to us most of the time. And we can kind of adjust some of this and get it back into position to get that rough little kind of pyramid shaped tooth or prism kind of shape. I remember when ZBrush was free on a 3D magazine. Wow, that would have been great. I wish I was using ZBrush back then, whenever that was. I took one look and knew ZBrush would be a game changer. Where's a good place to post your models if you want to sell them? Sorry for the new question. Wish you had an undo button in real life. Every day I wish I had an undo button in real life. A good place to sell your models if you want to sell them. I don't know if you guys in the chat have some recommendations for B lanes. If you guys want to throw those in there. My personal recommendation is if you're trying to sell 3D prints, there's Shapeways and there's a few others, but they're pretty strict on how they have to be done, wall thickness, if you want to hollow them to make them cheaper. What I'm saying is it's kind of tough, especially if you're new, which it sounds like you might be. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it might be tough if you're trying to sell 3D prints. If you're trying to sell just 3D models, Gumroad is a great digital selling service for that kind of stuff. I'd recommend Gumroad. I've used Gumroad in the past for, I sell a couple things on there, but most of the stuff, if you want to go check out my Gumroad, there's a ton of free 3D models on there, and you guys can download whatever you want. So that's my Gumroad page, and there's a link in my About page on YouTube. So if you're looking for some things to kind of maybe see how I work, if you're trying to just get an idea of my process and you want to learn more by seeing those, you can check out my Gumroad. So that's what I recommend for maybe just selling digital files. But again, there's shapeways.com if you want to check that one out for selling physical stuff. So we got this derpy little mouth, and of course we're going really slow because I'm talking a bunch. But that was the intent, so that we could kind of talk and answer a bunch of questions during this stream and have some fun. If you guys have a recommendation, because I don't think this guy's going to take too long since he's so simple and fun here. If you guys have a recommendation for another Pokemon character or something we can do next and you want to throw that in the comments, we can start thinking about what we want to do for the next one. Try and keep this towards the front here. The reason I'm doing this is because I'm going to squash in this shape. And I'm just going to use my transpose tool to kind of pull that in and get a little bit of a flattened tooth area. This is creased here, and that's okay, because I'm just going to subdivide this a bunch and Dynamesh it, just because I really don't care about this geometry. I don't care what it looks like. I just want to get something nice and simple in here. Can try to delete this edge loop. That can help out with this shape here. I want to get that. And by simple, I mean like a triangle. A triangle from the front view. These ones, I can delete this edge loop and be fine. This one won't work just because it's got a it's not a perfectly clean edge loop. It's getting a little confused around some of these points, and I figured that would happen, but that should be good. You can subdivide that a couple times and have a nice basic tooth shape. And then we can look at it maybe from the top view so that we can align it with the curve of the sphere of his mouth. Get that there. And it's really big compared to what we were looking at, so we can use our transpose tool to, of course, pull it on up and get like a little derpy tooth in there. There's lots of ways to do what I just did. I just kind of did it in a pretty roundabout way, but we showed you a bunch of, or I showed you a bunch of different techniques there along the route, so hopefully some of those were maybe not something that you knew how to do. We can pull another one across to the other side. With your transpose tool, if you hold Control and click in that middle circle, you can pull out extra shapes, just like that. You can have extra geometry in there. In the chat, let's see, do you plant one? Can't remember the name, but he was in the first episode of the original series. Oh, do the plant one, sorry. The plant one. Well, let's see, there's Bulbasaur. There's Bellsprout, right? And Bulbasaur's right here. He's the one I was showing you guys. He's one of the plant ones. There's Bellsprout. Are there any other plant ones? There's like Oddish and Vileplume and those guys. There's a few. There's a few plant ones. I don't know. Bellsprout. Thinking Bellsprout. Bellsprout's pretty derpy. And I think a Bellsprout would actually be perfect. And if anybody else has any other suggestions, I like Bellsprout. That's a cool one. Bellsprout doesn't get enough love, guys. What's up with that? Poor little Bellsprout. I'm gonna try to Z-remesh our little sphere here because I want to simplify the forms around the mouth. And if I can, soften these shapes. So we can see that we got a little bit of roundness going around the curve of the corners of the mouth. So we want to make that happen. We want to make the overall shape of the mouth kind of have this upward kind of curve there. And we can start thinking about putting some buttholes on Koffing, because apparently he farts out of all of those. So it's Z-remeshing right now, it's thinking. And that's pretty clean in terms of simplification of forms here. So I think that'll do just fine. Kind of pull this up to a little bit of a frownish shape. Maybe mess with the teeth here a little bit more. On this sphere, I am not subdividing it. What I'm doing is hitting the D key on my keyboard, which just turns on dynamic. That essentially shows you what it would look like if you did not, or if you were about to subdivide. But I can subdivide that and get pretty much the same exact result. For the teeth, you can just push them back into the mouth a wee bit. Have a little bit of shape there. If you look really closely here, it might be difficult to tell with my material that I'm using. If you look around the mouth here, you see this shadow that we're getting casted there. That's because of the way the topology is flowing. You got a star right there, and you got some other stars around here. Stars where 5 intersections are occurring of polygons, so a quad would be, of course, 4. But as you can see here, we have 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So right here, we got a nice clean quad group, 4, 4, 4, 4, and up here we have 4 sets of 5, and they're kind of creating more and more from there. And that's because I just Z-remeshed it real quick, and that's fine. We can clean that up, but just be aware that this stuff can happen, and it might look subtle and difficult to recognize, but as you sculpt more, you'll be able to recognize it more and learn new techniques for getting rid of that stuff. I'm just using a trim dynamic brush to kind of very lightly go in here and clean some stuff up, along with a very light smooth brush. I'm using the alternate smooth, which involves smoothing and letting go of shift. So we have smooth, and then I'm not holding the shift key anymore and it's still smoothing. That's alternate smooth. It's a little bit different, a little bit less destructive. So now we have our basic shape there. I'll go back to my material here. What we can do is we can add some color to this, and I'll just throw on skin shade 4. But a good way to add color is, we can sit here and try to guess, or I could sample it in Photoshop, or you can import it directly into ZBrush. So let me download an image real quick, and we can do that real quick. And while I'm doing that, let's see here, questions. So people are saying Bellsprout. We got more Bellsprout. Awesome. So I'm thinking Bellsprout's next. What kind of Cintiq do you use? At what time do you think it is convenient to switch from a Wacom tablet to a Cintiq? The time at which you think it is convenient, or I think it is convenient, is when you can afford it and when you need it. Not when you want it and not when you don't have enough money, but when you need it and you can afford it. What kind of Cintiq do you use? It's the 27H Quad HD, I think. It's if you look down in the description, you'll see a link to it down there. I believe it's the 27QHD. Dynamic, thanks my computer. Dynamic can be a little bit of a pain in the butt with your computer, yeah. What else we got? I think Kingler or Scyther are pretty cool. I actually like Kingler a lot. Not a lot of people like Kingler. I don't know why. I think Kingler's pretty cool. And excuse me, I'm downloading a picture of a KOFFING from the internet. So Texture, you want to go up into your texture palette up here, click on texture, click on import, and then go to my downloads folder where I just downloaded that KOFFING, and go back to texture, select my KOFFING image, and then click on add to spotlight, and I'll close Lightbox because that opens up automatically. I'm going to scale it down, throw it up over here. We're not obviously making this KOFFING, we're making a little bit of a derpier one. But if I press C, the C key will sample any color that you have your mouse hovering over in the ZBrush user interface or just in ZBrush in general. So I can sample all of these colors and you can see that things are changing based on that. So I'll grab Skin Shade 4, sample this color here by pressing C. Make sure that your spotlight little circle here is visible. You can turn on and off spotlight with Shift Z and hit the Z key again to pull up this circle. So if that circle is available, you will be able to sample these colors with the C key. If it is not, you will not be able to. So I can go ahead and click Fill Object. So this object color is now filled in here. Maybe we can try something a little bit darker if we're feeling that. I do kind of like that darker purple. So I'm going to drop my RGB intensity down to 50 and click Fill Object, and that's going to fill it by about 50%. So we'll get a little bit closer to that dark color, but not all the way. Next I'll do white, and I'll do white for the teeth here. Fill that in. And again, these eyes up here, these are toy plastic set on black. All these materials are in here in your basic materials, so just click here and you can dig through your menus to find them. So toy plastic is somewhere down here in standard materials, and Skin Shade 4 is pretty close to it, just to the left a few. So you should have all those by default in ZBrush, and you should I recommend Skin Shade 4 if you're trying to add just like a basic kind of color there. Alright, so let's look at this dude. We're looking at this design. We can look at a few of these. I kind of just liked this for the face, for the simple eyes and derpy mouth. We need a tongue in there real quick, and we need some KOFFING buttholes. So let's do a tongue real quick. I'll just duplicate this piece and insert a, let me see here, press the right key, M, so I can insert a sphere. We'll insert a sphere in there, and this is going to be his tongue again. You can select that, hide some stuff, and we can get that into position. I'm going to use my transpose and move tool here in just a second. One sec here while I get this. My stream health is saying low health, that my video output is low. Let me know if you guys are having trouble seeing what's going on. It looks like it's still working on my end, but I was just getting a warning sign. So let me know if you guys can still hear me and see me, and if so, I guess I'll keep going. But just let me know in the comments if someone can shout out, say, hey, I still see you and hear your words. That would be great. I'm going to sample this tongue color just so we can get that in there, and I can start messing with this a little bit, get it into place. So very easy and very simple shape, just like that. Zeno says the stream is fine on their end, so hopefully it is for the rest of you guys, and if not, I apologize, and I'll try to figure out what's going on. I don't know why I have the red light right now. Alright, so let's see here. Ghost mode, that's just so I can kind of pull this tongue out a little bit, as well as doing the same thing with the transpose tool to pull that back into the mouth. So we have a nice simple tongue in there. He's looking very cute. Let's see here. So very simple tongue. We can add a little bit more asymmetry to that, kind of like our image here. Got a little bit of more height on that left side. We can subdivide that just a couple times just to get rid of the polygons so you can't see them quite as well. That should do just fine. Now we can start placing placing some buttholes on KOFFING. I don't know what they are, but they release gas, so I assume that they're buttholes. These are kind of fun, just like little rounded cylinders. They're like beveled cylinders. If you look at the official artwork, the ones in the front are like little nobules, but some of them are like actual cylinders that I would assume have. There's some cheating going on here, and I don't appreciate it. Pokemon Company, the way you designed these. This I don't know. We'll do something. Let's start with like these rounded cylinder shapes, so we can start there and add more. So I can duplicate, and we can convert that into a cylinder pretty easily. And after we have our cylinder right here, we can start beveling some edges and get it into position on KOFFING. So back to ZModeler. Hover over that edge, make sure we're creasing our edges. We can go ahead and do that pretty simply, just with a couple clicks. Looking good. And on the bottom side as well. Awesome. First thing I heard was placing some buttholes. Good stream. Yes, we're placing some KOFFING buttholes. That's correct. KOFFING has this is Francesco. This is terrifying. I love it. He's cute. So he's got some buttholes that release gas, right? The only place I release gas from in my body is my butt, and I guess my mouth. Burp is gas too. So I don't know. Here we have some anatomy of KOFFING down here. This is a little disturbing. Look, he's covered in tiny sphincters. KOFFING is covered in buttholes. Guys, we have solved the Pokemon mystery. We now know. Oh wow, that's beautiful. We now know the secret of KOFFING. Gosh, I cannot close that. Let's go back to our fun little sketch here, and we'll try to get a little bit closer to here. This design down here, that'll be fun to make. We'll think about how we want to do that. But let's go back here and round some of these out, and then we can get to making some more shapes. They're like geysers, or however it's spelled, craters. Can you go into more detail about the gases you release? I think that about covers it. Just burps and butt gas, right? I'm not allowed to say the F word. At least that's what I've always been told the F word was. I don't actually know. You're rendering and you're getting some lag. That's to be expected. You were getting some lags, but now it's all good. So the stream health is back to green. I don't know what was going on there, but looks like we're all good. So we're gonna play around with ZModeler here. If you guys aren't super familiar with that, we can hover over a point and go to split, and just like that, can get a nice split in there. Can mask these out and do a Q mesh to push these in. And just like that, we have the basic shape for what we're going for. Now we can start beveling some edges to get closer. So I'm going to select bevel, edge loop complete, and just like that, we can start getting these shapes adjusted. Boom. And I want to make this taper a little bit more in here. It's going to be a little bit difficult to make this selection, but we can just do something like this. I'm going to turn on double so I can see a little bit better. And hey, that wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. So from here, I'm just going to scale in. So grab that inner white circle of your transpose tool. Or you can, always use your 3D gizmo if that's more your speed. And I can start making that shape just like that. And not only that, but I would like to move this up. I don't want it quite that deep, a little bit more shallow. Awesome. And of course, we got to have the correct color here, fill it in. So now we can turn off symmetry and start placing these all around our little coughing friend. So we can try see-through mode again if that's something that you want to try, and maybe we can line this up so we can make all sorts of different shapes and sizes. Of course, these are, I have orthographic mode on. If I turn on perspective, depending on how close those are to the camera, it's going to make them look larger or smaller, depending on how that is. So we can start placing these in basic areas, just quick little basic placements. And again, holding that control key, holding control while you use the transpose move from the center, you can create lots of little instances here of your mesh. So that's what I'm going to use to get very basic initial placement for some of these. And then I can go back through and start moving some stuff around a little bit more. So just like that, pretty simple, straightforward. And of course we want to add some variation to these. We don't want them to all be exactly the same size and shape, so we can mess with those as we go as well. So we got a few in here, just very primitively placed, not only here in the outer rim, but of course if we look at some other coughings, he's got, oh my gosh, if you actually look at this, these look like little arms. Are these supposed to, no, they're not supposed to be arms. This is from the, I believe this is official artwork. I believe this is as well. He's got more than just two, so they're not arms. I thought maybe they were like little nubby arms. That would have been an amazing revelation. Almost as amazing as the butthole revelation down here. Coughing, the sphincter poison Pokemon. So we can do some nobules around there as well. So back here to these pieces, I'm going to mask one out and move it along to the front so we can start placing some of these as well. Play with these. Flatus is the scientific word for fart. Sorry if this is a common question, but what tablet do you use? Oh no, wait. I just answered this question. It's down in the description. You're using an Intuos. Intuos is great. Stick with an Intuos for as long as you can until it stops working, and then buy another Intuos. That's my recommendation. Unless you have money to spend on it, then do what you want. Do what you want. So a few of these guys in the front will mess, again, like I said, with variation, size, and everything else on a bunch of these. I'm still just using that control key to move stuff around. You can do that very simply. Again, that gizmo tool up here is great for playing around with this kind of stuff as well. If you want to mess with this, I just personally prefer to use the transpose tool because I've been using it for so long. It's just my personal preference. So we got a few bumps and nobules here in the front. We'll do a couple more, and then we can start messing with where those ones are placed around him. So we can do a little bit of scale here maybe, as well as rotating it into place. Maybe make it a little bit smaller. Maybe smooth out some of the crater shape that's going on there. You can even use your transpose tool to create some like shearing to an object, which can be fun if you want to mess with stuff like that. So we can start playing with this. Now what's great about having this shape in the middle is that we can rotate around it. So if we find the center point, and then from there grab something like this, and now I can just rotate around this center point fairly easily. So I can start messing with some of these, and should be nice and easy to get just a couple quick little rotations. So all stuff in layers, kind of. So start with the basic kind of ring around him, and then from there, you know, we can start doing some more variations as we go. So I kind of like to block things out. That's just how I work and how I recommend and how I think a lot of people work. But just as a recommendation, blocking stuff out in the beginning will help you down the road in your workflow quite a bit. So we can start messing with these a little more. Variation in this stuff, it can be a little hard. I've seen some helpful like rules for this kind of stuff. One of my favorites, if you're trying to do a pattern, I'm sure you guys have seen the let's see here, mask pen. You know, if you have 3 objects of varying height, you don't want to line them up from smallest to largest. Of course, it's just a little bit too unnatural, so maybe you do something like medium, small, and then large. So that's a little bit of a size variation thing. Another one is if you have like 3 or more objects, it's nice to do some size variation between those, of course, right? But again, you want to apply that same rule, and the way you apply that in this case is you have 2 objects that are somewhat close to each other, and then maybe a third one that is a little bit farther away. And then you can, of course, do different variations to this structure as well to create some different kind of variations of that. So that's just some ideas for this stuff. So I don't want it to be very even as I move some of these around. I can think about maybe moving some of these a little bit closer together, but then from there, you know, I can create some size variations to scale them in and place them that way, so we can have some fun with those as well. And of course, if we do a render of this, we're going to want these little suckers, or buttholes, whatever they're called. We want those to be seen from the front view, so keep going back to that front view, maybe turn perspective on so you can kind of get an idea of what that looks like. We're saying no, he doesn't have arms, and thank you. I assume that's yes. Yes, you were the one who was asking about the tablet. Yes, it's the 27QHD. If you want to check it out, it's down in the description. So we can move this a little bit with control and rotate, get that into position a little bit here, and rotate as well. And start messing with a few more of these, trying to rotate them a little bit better, have a little bit more variation on the buttholes. Don't want all your buttholes in the same place, of course. Everyone knows that. So we can mess with these a little bit more. Make sure you're looking at it from multiple perspectives. It's the one thing that's killer about 3D versus 2D, right? You always have to make sure it looks good, not from just one point of view, but from every point of view. A little bit of some extra work in there, or I guess a lot of extra work if you think about it. Can do some rotations and different stuff to get some variations in there, but we can already see that it's starting to come together. If we look around, we can find some bald spots maybe here in the back, so we can quickly rotate in another piece very simply just by using that rotate transpose tool. And we can find a good place for that right in here and rotate that to make it line up a little bit better. If you look here, we got a straight line of suction cups going on here and a little bit there as well. It's a little bit close. Let me see here. So what I would like to do is break that up just a little bit by moving that just like so. So less straight lines, the more organic things are going to look. So keep that in mind if you're doing something patterny that's trying to look a little bit more organic. Asymmetry to make that look good, it's pretty tough, turns out. I'm not a master at it by no means. So don't take my words as fact here for everything that I'm saying. These are just my practices and what I've learned from trying to do this stuff as well. And rotate some of these a little bit. So we got all these section cups in place. I still haven't subdivided them quite yet. This is just a dynamic subdivision applied to there. If we want to add some more, maybe like one more in here, I think we can do that. So just one more real quick, maybe two more. I see another bold spot. Then we can start adding some more variation to these. Doesn't have to be crazy, just to kind of keep them all from looking exactly the same. Definitely don't want that. And obviously they are all exactly the same right now, right? They're all just duplicates. So ZBrush, it does make some things, digital 3D work in general makes some things that in real life that would be a lot more difficult. Makes them very easy, like duplicating parts to get some variations of stuff. It makes it very easy in here, but don't take that as a license to kind of be lazy. Just because it's super easy for us to create a billion little suckers here, don't end your work and your process there. Don't kind of just say, well, I duplicated them all and now it's time to move on. Definitely think about how you can kind of add some more asymmetry and variation among those parts and pieces. Kazooples, I believe that's how you go saying your name. You're saying that they're beautiful buttholes, and I would have to agree they are beautiful buttholes. Zeno's heading out. Later, Zeno. Thanks for stopping in. Glad you could come by for a little bit and hang out and participate. Hopefully some of this was enlightening to you. Maybe the buttholes. Who knows? So looking at these, you know, we have some nice variation going on. We have some straight lines still going on, but a way that we can kind of fix some of that is with a real big move brush. So I think I'm going to go ahead and subdivide these all a few times, grab my big old move brush, and start creating just some very simple variations. And I'm just kind of dragging these about and kind of squashing them in or pulling them out depending on the part piece. But I want to get some variation in here. I don't want all these perfectly round crater shapes on here. I'm trying to avoid, again, these straight lines of shapes, so I want to adjust these wherever I kind of see those happening. So working on that a little bit more, you can see that things are starting to look a little bit more random and organic, so that's always good in case of trying to get something to look organic, trying to make it look like there's no kind of visible pattern that just sticks out immediately to you. If you're having trouble seeing a pattern or something like that, or you've just been staring at your work a little bit too long, a great little thing that you can do is just take a screenshot. I do this all the time. Sometimes I take turnaround images. I throw them in Photoshop. If you don't have Photoshop, Paint, whatever you got, you can just do a new image here, and then flip your canvas, and then you can kind of look at it from a new, fresh perspective and kind of say, let's see here, I've read already. So maybe we think that this is a little bit too close to this straight line, so maybe we want to adjust that a little bit more. But I think things are looking pretty random and organic here, so I don't think I'll mess with that anymore. What I do want to do, though, is just a quick Dynamesh from there. Just kind of smooth these out. I don't want that that hard shape that's going on there. Maybe a couple of them, I can keep that, but I just want to kind of soften these a little bit. I don't want because this character, this thing that I've made, this derpy butthole goblin, is so simple in design. I don't want you looking at one of these suction cups or whatever they are, buttholes. My bad, sorry. And seeing like these interesting bevels going on and getting lost in that detail. So for the same reason you don't make a human character have a ton of detail on their feet, you want that focus to be, what's the word? You want to decide where that attention is being held. And of course for this character I want the attention to be on the face. I don't want you to be looking down here and say, oh, wait, that's a little bit of an interesting shape going down there. So we want to keep the attention right here on Goober's face. So let's maybe make some smog, some fart clouds. And after we make some fart clouds, maybe we can think about how we can paint this design on here. What I would maybe look up is something like KOFFING skull design. I don't know what you would, here we go, maybe something like this, something to where, oh, this is perfect. So something to where we can just paint that directly onto our KOFFING. And this one is, this one is nowhere near the perfect, more clean design that we see on the official KOFFING. This one's a little bit more, of course, derpy, much like the actual KOFFING that we have here. So we can just maybe wing it. Maybe we don't project that paint on there directly. He needs another butthole on top, methinks. Let's see. On top. Where are you thinking? Where do we want to place another booty hole? We can maybe fit one right up here in this blank spot. I don't think that's a bad idea whatsoever. So let's go ahead and do that. So we can move this to duplicate it real quick and rotate it up into place and move a little bit and do a little bit of rotation. And what we want to do is we have a nice little variation going on there. They're overlapping, which is nice. Nice to have a little bit of that. We can maybe make one, or make this one a little bit smaller, shorter, sorry, but a little bit wider. And we get a little variation there. Alright, so enough of those, enough of the buttholes. Let's look at how I would do some fart gas. I'm gonna call it fart gas. I'm gonna stick with it. So we got some clouds going on here. It's pretty simple, pretty much how I start most stuff, and that's with, of course, a sphere. And let's bring our KOFFING back, and for this we can maybe sample this color. It's not going to be exactly what we want, so let's add some white in there. I'm going to turn my RGB intensity down, and I like this color. We'll stick with this. So I'm just going to use a move brush. You know, we can add some variation. We could turn on see-through mode if we want to kind of line this guy up and maybe get an idea of where that 2D artist had placement for these things, and can start making some different variations. Again, I'm just using my move brush. I'm only doing this from one angle though, so of course we are going to want to add variation on those sorts of things. We can start messing with that. I'll show you guys a really cool method for getting some variation on these shapes to get them to look a little bit more cloud-like. Right here. Right there, yep. I believe you're talking about the butthole I just added. Katie needs some food, so she's gonna head out. Awesome. Well, we'll see you later, hopefully. I'm gonna keep going on our fart gas here. We're gonna mess with some surface noise down here. With the surface noise, you're not going to be able to see this directly on your model right away. You're going to get this little preview pane. And with the surface noise, we're going to mess with our scale slider. I'm going to crank that way up. And you can mess with your strength down here, of course. You want to be careful with it, though, because it's pretty easy to overdo that. So we can play with this. And just like that, we got some basic cloud shapes there. They're pretty low poly right now, so of course we have a lot of stuff going on there. But with a couple subdivisions added on, you can see that we get some pretty interesting shapes pretty quickly. And if they're looking too rocky for you, maybe they look a little bit too much like rocks, you can always smooth those out just a little bit to soften those form changes on there. So make them look a little bit more smoggy, which I believe is what you would call this. And then of course we can line this back up again and maybe figure out where we want to place a few more of these. So just like that, it's pretty easy to kind of see how we can do more variation. It's just kind of like the little butthole placement that we had going on. All it takes is time from this point. So I won't do a ton of these, and that's my fault there. I meant to duplicate that, but do keep in mind that you cannot control duplicate drag with transpose if you have subdivisions on. So you will have to either freeze your subdivision levels or delete them entirely. And I am, like I said, I'm not going to do too many more of these. I just wanted to get a couple of these in place so that we could kind of see how I would go about making these, getting them in here. So we can do some of these. Maybe we'll do like one shooting out of a butthole. We can do that. So we can mess with these a little bit more. Snake hook brush is great if you're trying to maybe get like a little bit of a stream, like a little bit of a pooled shape here. And I can scale this, of course. Whoops. Making sure that I have scale turned on. Maybe that's a little too small. Kind of position that a little bit. Pull that in. It's kind of looking like a little spermy, which we don't want. So we can widen out some of this. And from there, I'll do one more. We'll do it kind of out of this butthole down here. I'm not going to get over that. So I can just kind of scale this into position. Just like that. Make sure it's in the right place. If you're having a little bit of lag or trouble viewing what's going on, you can turn on solo mode. Solo mode is the G hotkey for me. To set that, you just hold Control and Alt and then click on any button in the ZBrush UI. And then you hit any key combination and it'll let you set a shortcut for that. G key for solo mode down here has been pretty helpful for me. I use it all the time. All right. So get that into position, and from there I can insert maybe another sphere if I want to use that to create some more geometry. And then maybe from there we can Dynamesh to combine those. The surface noise option is great. There's another brush here I want to show you guys though, which is great for creating some organic detail. That is the blob brush. And I don't know if you've ever played around with the blob brush, but it's a pretty crazy brush. It creates some really strong shapes very quickly. And it might help if we turn on some backface masking, but as you can see, we can get some pretty crazy shapes in here pretty quickly, depending on what your Z intensity is. So That's getting a little too out of control for our style that we're aiming for here. We're aiming for something a little bit more simplified, right? We don't want that attention to be drawn away from the face. So we can maybe mess with this a little bit. Smooth it out. And we do have some nice variation going on in there. Rotate that back into position. And we can try some noise again if we're feeling froggy. And the noise has been saved from the last time I created that variation. So I simply need to click noise and click apply to mesh to get that to happen. And this stuff is looking pretty gnarly. So let's go ahead and just do a Z remesh on them really low. And we got some nice clean variations going on here. So stuff is, whoa, what's going on back there? Can fill object, make sure, there we go, all set. So we're getting some nice kind of organic shapes happening here. If you want to mess with these and maybe sculpt them up a little bit better into maybe something a little bit more clean, you can do that. I recommend maybe using the trim dynamic brush. It's great for flattening surfaces as well as building up. And that's the Alt stroke, so hold Alt to build up that shape. So you can maybe play with that if you want to clean these up a bit as you're working. If you want to have a little bit more control, that's what I would recommend. And that's kind of looking a little bit better as well. That noise modifier can be pretty strong, so if that's not the exact shape you want, then mess with it. Just play around with it. And I think that's good for now for just kind of a visual instruction, an example. So we can, I think we can call him done for now. I'll probably tweak him a little bit, maybe add some more gaseous farts or something like that. But I think what I'm gonna do is do a file. Now, I've talked about saving in a lot of my videos. I always say save as a ZTL, a Z tool, and that's over here in your tool palette on the right side. So save that. You should see .ztl down there. That's how you pretty much always want to save. The only time you don't want to save like that is if you want to save your undo history. If you want to save your undo history, come up into File, check here, and then click Save As. The problem is when you do this, I'll just click Save real quick. The file size is going to be pretty large. That's why I recommend you save as a Z tool for most of the time. So let's see here. How large is this file? This file is 650 megs. So it's a pretty simple character here. Let's do this. Let's do a Z tool. The Z tool is 7 megabytes. So the Z tool alone for this very simple character, 7 megabytes. I would expect that. That's awesome. This though, on the other hand, saving your project file, it can get really big and really out of control fast. So do keep that in mind. So I'm just gonna name him KOFFING, and I'll save him there. So KOFFING ZBrush project, 7 megabytes versus almost a gigabyte. If you think about it that way, I think it starts to make a little bit more sense why you want to save as a ZTL file. How does noise preview actually work? When I use it, it looks good, but when I apply it, it doesn't due to lower geometry. Hope you understand what I wanted to say. Yeah, I do understand what you are attempting to say here. The short answer is I don't know. The long answer is this is a preview window, and it's attempting to calculate what the geometry would look like if you applied it at this strength and at this scale. So let me scale this down a little bit and click OK. So currently I have the noise preview on. And if you want to render, you can actually you can render with the noise preview on, I believe, and it will render that as if it were geometry, and it does. So if you're just trying to render this information, let me see that again. So it's looking a little bit more bumpy. It will come out a little bit, maybe like a little bit different than what you're expecting, so maybe you need to adjust because of that. But the preview noise is a little bit different than the application. So you can see there, it's factors based on your level of resolution, how much geometry you have on the piece. I don't use noise all too often, so I can't, I can't give you a definitive answer. But I guess my only guess is that it's attempting to preview it as best as it can, and of course it's not perfect. Here's what it thinks it's going to look like, and now let me apply that to the mesh and see what it actually looks like. So that's all I can come up with. Normally I've found that it applies a bit stronger than what the preview is estimating, so I tend to go a little bit weaker than I want, or I try to do exactly what I want, and then I use layers down here. So you can just do a layer, make a new layer, say surface, noise, apply, and that's on there. But now I have this layer, and I can drag this layer to make it stronger or weaker. So I can find that, that level that I'm looking for pretty easily, just like this. So that's what I recommend if you're having trouble with that. You can even go negative, you can even go higher than 1, which you get some pretty fun results like that, but I think you guys get the picture there. So layers can be helpful with surface noise. So I already saved this, so I think we can go on to, let's see how we're doing on time. Cool, we still got a little bit of time. I'll go ahead and start on a bell sprout. I think that'll be fun. It's what people were saying earlier. He's pretty simple design anyway, right? Let's see here, where'd our image go? So we got a little bell sprout here. And of course, I didn't paint that design on there, but we'll have to save that for another time because I want to have a little bit of time here to play with bell sprout. I don't want to spend the rest of our time doing some painting, unless you guys would prefer seeing that. Holy crap, that is terrifying. Also, is this Bellsprout driving a truck? There's Plants vs. Zombies, a really cool Bellsprout smoking a cigarette. I think we'll just stick with kind of... oh man. I think we'll just stick with kind of the classic design of Bellsprout. It's pretty simple, pretty easy, and it shouldn't take too long for us here. Oh my lord, Google Images is fantastic. There's so many amazing things on here. So cool. We got Bellsprout, and we got a little bit of a derpy KOFFING. I'll kind of stylize it a little bit, and maybe we can get it into the realm of our KOFFING as well, so we can make them maybe a little bit more cute. Bellsprout's already looking pretty derpy though, so a little hard to make them look more derpy. So I'm just going to start with a sphere like I do with everything else. Make sure you make that a polymesh 3D. I just want to delete that extra piece in there if it'll let me. It's not wanting me to. There we go. All right. So starting with a sphere, make polymesh. So now I can sculpt on this and work with it. It does have poles. We'll dynamesh those out most likely. Real quick here. One sec. Awesome. All right. Sorry about that. Just checking on the stream health just to make sure we were still in the green. Hasn't dipped back down into the red in a little bit. All right, so again, we can use that see-through pane if we have the correct image underneath, the correct window. And looking at this, for Bellsprout, let me grab my reference image back up over here on the side. We're going to do some Dynamesh. And I'm going to duplicate our sphere, bring our sphere down. For the beginning stages, I recommend this a lot, and it's what I call breaking things up into parts. So the simplification of forms, essentially. Excuse me. If you're looking at the shape here of Bellsprout's dome, we have a spherical shape which then tapers down into the cylinder here, and then that torus shape up there, and we can actually insert a torus right up here, or a ring, if you want to call it that. I know it as a torus, maybe from my Maya and Max days. So, whoops. Looking at that, we can see that it's a sphere that, again, tapers down into that cylinder. So we can kind of play with some shapes here. The way I'm going to do that, looking at this now, what I would like to do is kind of pull this shape up, scale it in, and use backface masking just to get this a little bit more clean here. And I'm going to delete this extra geometry here. And then I'm going to merge these together. And after I merge them together, I'm going to Dynamesh them so that we have one piece here. So now what I can do, now that I have this piece that is this sphere, and this is going to be the taper down of the mouth, and I'm doing it up right now. I could have done it up or down. It's just going to be a little bit easier if it's up for the initial stages here. Now the reason I did this was so that I can come into transform and turn on radial symmetry. And I believe I'm going to want Y, so the Y-axis is the up and down axis, and turning on radial means that we are radial around that Y-axis. So now we can see that we are indeed radial, having some radial symmetry around that axis. So I can come into transform, and I can even, up this count a little bit to make it a little bit more symmetrical as I play with this shape. I can kind of begin creating this taper of a sphere into that conical shape, and then that opening at the end of the mouth. So radial symmetry, it's very good for hard surface stuff. It's great for organics. As you can see here, we can play around and have some fun with it and make some great progress. So it's very, very useful. You just gotta recognize the time when you can use it. So pulling that in, I'm gonna use, let's see, I'll use my inflate brush and hold Alt just to kind of push in this shape here. That's going to be his mouth opening there. If we want, we can kind of line this up. We can already see that it's a bit too long on our side. So if I get that, I can try to do this from this small angle down here. It'll be a little bit tough. I can try to pull that in along the mouth. And of course this has perspective to it and everything else. So it's a little bit more difficult trying to do an angled thing like this, especially when it's so small like that. But I think that's a lot closer than what we had before. I can undo a couple times just so that you can see the changes that we made there. Can kind of come through here, start to make these changes as we go. And just like that, we have the starting of a Bellsprout head. Awesome. Now, I kept this KOFFING over here, and we lucked out. I kept him up so that I could reorient myself. I'm looking at this, and it's symmetrical on its radial axis. And I, of course, could turn X symmetry back on, and that would help me find the front and back. But I wouldn't be able to find the front of my object unless I had something else to reference that with. So this is what that is helping me with. Now, of course, in ZBrush, it's not incredibly important, but if I want to export this to something else, going to help me to know my orientation. So I am looking at this from the positive Z axis. And that's a little bit more technical. And if you're not worried about that right now, then don't be. It's not the end of the world if you don't know your orientation. But it can be super helpful. I mean, knowing as much as you can, obviously, about your model and what's going on is going to be helpful in the end. So let's grab a ring 3D. Of course, we want to make it a polymesh 3D. And after we do that, we want to come to append and append that ring here. Now I have that ring in place. I can move it up with transpose. We can turn our see-through mode back on, get an idea of how large this should be, what that's going to look like. Can scale it in. Looks like mine might be a little bit too thick. So what we can do is come down to deformation, inflate, and instead of inflating, of course, we would drag this up, but we can de-inflate it by doing the opposite and dragging it down. So just like that, we get a nice little cylinder shape there for our bell sprout, or a torus shape, I should say. We can kind of scale up the size of that just a tad, move it down, and move this a little bit more into position. Just kind of adjust that shape just a tad, make it a little bit more clean. Awesome. So I'm seeing a little bit of variation there that I don't want to happen. Whoa, wrong brush. I'm just gonna trim dynamic this out to kind of try to grow it just a tad. And let's try to ZBrush. Let's see what kind of reaction we get here. ZBrush is a little finicky with radial symmetry, as you can see there. And that is because I have Y symmetry on. So let's instead turn X and Z on. Oh man, this is always fun. This is always a good time. Boom. Boom. Alright, that's not what we want. I'm turning on X and Z so that when I ZBrush this, it's going to do a decent job at kind of cleaning up this topology a little bit better. And as you can see, it did a fairly good job there. So there we go. We got a little bit lower topology, a little bit more clean. Again, we are facing forward. That is what we want. So I'm going to merge down. I could also keep these separated as two separate subtools, but in all honesty, it'll be just as okay if we just do a quick merge, and I could split those back up. You can see that we still have two poly groups, so I do have the ability to kind of solo those pieces. So no worries there on that front. You can go back to see-through. You can get some beady little eyes in here. Of course, we need beady eyes on all of our Pokemon. So back to that. We can kind of get this into position and then think about how we're going to do his body. I think he's a root. I thought he was a twig or a branch, but I guess it makes more sense that he is a root. And those are, or maybe not, I don't know. What type of plant is he supposed to be? His last evolution, oh no. I was thinking maybe it was a Venus flytrap, but that's not exactly a Venus flytrap. What kind of plant, if anybody knows what kind of plant he resembles, let me know, because I'm very curious. Alright, now make a vase, yes. How about we just make a Bellsprout vase instead? That would be fun. Yeah, so with radial symmetry, it's really great, like I said, for hard surface stuff like mechanical parts, bowls, a vase, a lot of stuff like that. Or it's great for organics as long as you can find a cool purpose for it. So let's see here. Beady little eyes. That's what I'm looking at right now. I can append a sphere 3D, and you don't have to do it this way. There's many ways to append a sphere in ZBrush. There's many ways to do every little thing in ZBrush. We all know that. But this is the way I'll do it this time. And that scale, it's going a little slow for me, so I'm just going to grab this. And of course we want toy plastic, black, fill object, and make sure our color's back on white for our Follygon black and white clay. And we can kind of move that into position. That see-through is getting a little annoying, so I'm going to turn that off and just kind of do this myself. Mirror and weld to get that into position on the other side. And I'm just kind of looking at my reference over here on the right on my other monitor. Get an idea of placement. And I think that's pretty close to what I want. Looking at this, the taper of this is a little bit too narrow at the top. Or actually, instead I'll just use my move brush and get a little variation in here at the top. So we have a little bit of bend going on. And it's difficult when something, when you have reference of something that's only from one angle or just a couple angles, it can be hard. And I could, maybe if I looked up, I know some of the newer Pokemon games, they have 3D models of the Pokemon, and maybe somebody has like ripped those. Maybe I could find one of those, but we'll just do this for now. I think that's fine. It's close enough to what we need. But going back to, if you only have one reference or a couple references to view something from, as you work, you might find that some things don't exactly line up in 3D space the way it does in the 2D image. And I would say that that's a lot more common than not, just because, you can cheat stuff a little bit in 2D, can kind of get things to disobey the laws of physics. I'm looking at you, artists that draw all these girls with giant boobs. So there's just some stuff that in 3D all of a sudden isn't possible. For example, looking at our Bellsprout here, these two leaves, this is a pretty poor example because we have a very simple character here, but just immediately the thing that stands out to me here is that this image is very flat, it's very orthographic. But in a 3D space, if we have perspective, right? We have perspective in real life. The closer something is, the larger it looks. The farther away it is, the smaller it looks. So this leaf here on his left side is farther away from the camera, so therefore the hand way back there, or the leaf in this case, looks a lot smaller than the hand would if it was a lot closer to the camera. So these look about equal here in size, but in reality, if we try to line them up perfectly with this orthographic 2D image, our left leaf in 3D space will end up being 30% larger than this one, just because we're trying to make it line up perfectly. So it's not about making it line up perfectly is what I'm trying to say. It's more about just trying to understand and interpret what is happening on the screen or on the image that you're referencing. According to Bulbapedia, Ariel says it's based on the Nepenthes plant. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. Your first guess was a squash. Yes, it does kind of look like a squash now that I think about it. Let's see what's going on here. Real quick, just because I'm curious, I want to see what a Nepenthes plant is. Ooh, these are really neat. That is... yeah, that's really cool. This looks definitely a lot more like Victory Bell, right? This one here. That's really cool. They look like little cups, almost. Like you could catch some water or a little froggy in them. Those are neat. I like those a lot.
Those are cool. Thank you for looking that up. So back to Bellsprout. Let's create this little twig body. His little twiggy twig. Curve tube brush is what we're going to use. Curve tube brush is awesome for this sort of thing. We can get a nice curve just like that. But what I'm going to do is turn on a little feature over here. It's called As Line. As Line, not Aslan from Narnia, but As Line. What we can do with that, if I can get this, let's see here. How am I going to do this? It's going to be a little finicky. I'll have to make some adjustments. But what we can do with that, I'll show you here in a sec. Line this up. In general, does not need to be perfect. I'm going to open this image up so I can zoom in on him, make him a little bit bigger. He's doofy looking. Oh man. Alright, line that up as best as we can with that basic head shape. Beautiful. And as line, can take this line and draw it all the way. I'll draw it all the way down to here, to this point. It's going to give me a fairly straight line. Not going to be perfect. And then I can come into size, and we're going to adjust our curve so that we go from small to large. So a little bit smaller to a little bit larger, and that's a little bit too small for me, so let's make it a little bit less on both ends. We can get a little bit of variation in there. Then I can click on my mesh, and that'll delete the curve that I had to create there. And we can start messing with adjusting this shape as well. So I can delete my extra geometry that I inserted that on and start playing with this. So let's get this into position. Nice and straight. It doesn't have to be perfect, of course. I want this to be as close as I can to my x-axis, so that if I mirror and weld, I can kind of get this to line up a bit better on our symmetrical axis. So mirror and weld, it's not being super friendly, so what I can do is try some Z-remesher. Try that out. I'm gonna Dynamesh this. So I'm doing all this just to get quick and dirty, clean, a quick and dirty way of getting more clean geometry. So I'll just do that really quick here, and then we can adjust everything back. One more. Okay. All right. So that is at least symmetrical, which is what we wanted. Now we can start adjusting this. So we have the curve back and then the curve forward. So that actually in this case could be interpreted as me looking at this reference. This is farther away from the camera. It's smaller. This is closer to the camera. It's larger. So maybe the size difference isn't quite as much as we think it is. They didn't do that for any part of the other image though, so I'm going to go ahead and probably exaggerate it a little bit more. And actually if we come here, we might be able to find kind of a side perspective or a different angle that we can kind of see Bellsprout from. And I actually like this a lot. This is cool. This is cute. He's got, it kind of looks like he's wearing heels, some high heels. Swag Bellsprout is pretty cool. I'm not seeing anything that's kind of more directly from the side or a different angle that's kind of official art. That's okay. This one's pretty neat. He's fun. There's so many great fan, so much great fan art out here. Here's a cool color swap on a Bellsprout and Victory Bell, and Weeping Bell I think is the middle one. So I don't see an exact side view. That's okay. We can kind of play with this as we go. I'm just gonna rotate it with my transpose tool, as well as use my move brush again. I do, however, want to make sure that I'm not making this extremely out of proportion. So I want to look at my character here and try to figure out what's going on with all of this back here on the body, I guess. It's almost more like a tail with legs than a body, but you get the idea. So we can play with this. Another great thing about having this low resolution geometry is that we can delete edge loops, and when we do that, we're gonna clean up these transitions and curves and stuff. The less we have there, the more clean it's going to be. Just make sure you click on these curves, and not what I'm doing here. Do as I say, not as I do. So delete some extra curves. There we go. And now when I turn on dynamic, you can see that it's going to smooth all that out for us. Awesome. So I got my move brush and adjust these curves just a little bit. Can maybe tap very gently with your smooth brush to kind of taper this top portion in. You gotta be careful though. Your smooth brush is very powerful and it can destroy a lot of geometry very quickly. And that's why I was talking about that alternate smooth method before, which is shift smooth and then letting go of shift while you're smoothing. So try that out if your smooth brush is being a little bit too strong. And I'm just going to use my transpose move tool and move it up into the head. It'd be cool to 3D print a bell sprout, but if you look here, this is just so narrow and thin that it would never work. It would never, one, be able to support its own weight, and two, you'd have to print it pretty large, like as tall as a human being, if you wanted this to actually be able to not snap in half. You'd probably have to run some steel up through it as well. All right, so let's think about these leggers down here going on. These are fun. There's some asymmetry going on here as well. You see you have two sprouts coming off this toe. I guess they're toes. They're like root toes. I don't know. So we got like two here, and two on this one. So we can do some asymmetry there. This has a really nice clean S curve here, this flow. It's really nice, and then this one's a little bit strange popping off of there. So just thinking about how I want to do that. Actually, that's really interesting. If you look here, like this is actually from the anime, from the cartoon. You can see that this is like a solid piece, how they drew it. And then this is like an extra one coming out. It's almost like it is a tail, and then he's got like one leg that supports him. So that's probably how I'll do that, as opposed to like this here where it's just two legs. Then we can kind of, I don't know. Well, this is official art as well, so you can, it looks similar to what's going on here. And then we can look at some leaves. So let's see here. Back on in here, we can duplicate our curve, and with our curve duplicated, we can, it's gonna be tough, but I might be able to just move this, or instead just kind of cheat it. You can try to cheat it. Trying to cheat is typically what I do and fail. So we can try here a little bit. I'm just trying to kind of continue this curve just by pulling that out and then dynameshing it. And as you can see here, we're getting some, oh wow, that is nasty. Let's delete that and try to clean it up just a little bit. And we got a lot of polygons in here. So it's getting a little bit more messy than I would like. We're obviously going to shoot one of these legs off to the left and another one off to the right so that we can, it almost looks like he's running here. I don't know, we can mess with it. But before I bounce out of here, what I would like to do is show you guys how I would do some leaves real quick. So I already showed you how I would do this curve, and it's simply just a continuation of creating more curves to do that, and then some splits off of there, and then the same thing for the other leg. So let's go ahead and do a leaf just before I call it quits here for the stream for the day. So the leaf will be something a little bit new and a little bit different. So let's look at that, and then I'm probably gonna bounce on out of here. So leaf, we can start here by duplicating our base body piece here, and the only reason I'm doing that, of course, is so that I can insert a sphere, like always. And of course you can append a sphere if you prefer to do it that way. That's how I did it earlier. There's many different methods and techniques for that. Looking at it though, I'm trying to think if I want to do it on the symmetrical axis, and now that I think about it, I think that might be a better idea. So let's do that. So let's throw a sphere here right in the middle instead. I think this will make more sense. Then we can flatten this shape, and I want to get that in the middle. So we have pretty much a circle going on here. Nice and simple. We can pull this up. I don't know if you guys have seen my feather tutorial, but with the feather tutorial I do something fairly similar to this for basing out the initial portion of the feather. Then I do some creasing and some other stuff, but we'll get there. So you can already see how we're starting to get to the primitive shape of one of these leaves, and we got KOFFING on the back end there. So let's swap that image. So we got a nice taper towards the tip, and we'll sharpen that up in just a sec. And then we got a bubble out towards the back, so we got a nice S curve going on there for the leaf as well. You can see that. And I apologize for the evil dogs in the background if you can hear those barking. They're pretty crazy. So we can get a nice little taper. Again, we're looking for that S curve. I just masked right down the middle, and then I'm gonna mirror that once I'm done, so no worries there. So we got a nice S curve, so we're looking for a curve in and out and back in. So pull this, try to soften the shape a little bit more, then mirror and weld. And just like that, we have the basics of our leaf. And what's great about doing this across the X symmetry, we have this midline point right here. Any of these actually. We can crease them with edge loop complete on, and when you do that, you're gonna get a nice crease all the way around there. And real quick here, I'm going to flatten our leaf. Ooh, it's not wanting to work. Let's see here if I can get this a little bit closer. That might be a little bit too much, but we'll play with it. So the way I'm doing this is I'm using my transpose tool and clicking the circle that I start from, and with that I can flatten the shape up to that point. It works very similarly to a let's see here, a clip curve or clip rectangle brush, or any of these clip brushes. So I'll show you one real quick here. The clip curve, can see there that it clipped that shape down to that point, and the same would happen if I used the transpose tool and clipped it down to that point. So that's just a little bit of a different method to do that. I use it fairly often, especially if I'm 3D printing and I want to get a perfect flat. It's great for creating that type of geometry. All right, So we creased our middle edge. That's great, but we can't see it because it's flat. So what we want to do is bubble out this shape so that it has this kind of convexity that's going on here, concavity on the opposite side. So I'm just going to grab a really large move brush to start out and try to pull that shape out from the initial area here at the base. And we'll do a little bit more, and you can see that it's pulling through on the other side. That's great. It's because I have back face masking turned off. That should be turned off by default, but if it's not, make sure you do that. And we can do that on the opposite side. So not only are we getting a nice clean S-curve from that front view, but we're also going to end up getting a nice, hopefully clean S-curve from the front view as well. And don't forget that, that geometry is getting tight up there. I was going to try to move that edge and adjust it that way, but it looks like this might be a little bit tougher than I thought. So let's try to get some of this geometry in here and pull it up and see what kind of result we get. So we get that little bit of a leaf vein. I don't know what that part of the leaf is called off the top of my head. That part that travels up through the base center of the leaf and even sprouts out like a leaf. It looks like a leaf has almost its own kind of root structure going on there. But as you can see, we can get that shape pretty quickly just by pulling up that center creased geometry. And then we can do some subdivisions if you want to work that way, and use that to kind of start adjusting some of this. It's a little sharp, so we can adjust it and smooth it out. A little too much there. Just like that. You can see how we're getting a really nice base leaf shape here. Not all that hard, didn't take that long, and we still have plenty of room for making adjustments and changes if we want to. So this one has a little bit more of a fat taper on one side. It's got a C curve here and an S curve on the other side. So if we want to add some asymmetry now to this, it'd be nice and easy that we have the base already finished. So I think we can go ahead and do that and mess with it just a tad more. So what I would like to do is rotate it, get it into posiciones, so see-through mode. The leaf is a lot larger than I have it in scale comparison, so we can try to line things up just a tad here. Put this about right here and scale on up, and I have it rotated in such a way that I think will be good in terms of length and size. But now we can add a tad bit of asymmetry here. So I'm just dropping down my subdivision levels. The mask pen tool is going to be really useful here for masking out just one side as I work and pulling out some shapes. So I'm going to pull out this bottom shape. It's a little bit more fat, and then it tapers real quick there at the end. So a little bit more fat. Try to keep this curve real clean. A little bit more fat, and then taper really quick there at the end. And even bends down, so we can do one of these guys here. And try to mess with that curve a little bit too. So on the top portion, we can mask some stuff off. Let me mask a little bit more, making sure that I don't cross that center line, and I can work on getting a nice C curve up on this top portion of the leaf. And of course, again, that solo mode does come in handy quite often if you're having trouble with other geometry getting in the way while you work. So this can, again, be very helpful. And just like that, I can start masking more and more and more, and making some more changes. Could use some of the new 4R8 techniques like the bend arc, which I was showing off on the last stream that I did last week. If you guys haven't seen that, you can check the one of my YouTube videos or go into my playlist of live streams. It's the newest video in there. I can't remember what character I was working on, but it's my latest live stream that's on my YouTube channel. As opposed to this one, which is my latest live stream. All right, so I'm just kind of adjusting these shapes just a little bit more in here, but I think that's going to be it for today, guys. So hopefully this stuff was helpful for you. Hopefully you guys learned something today. So I just kind of showed you some technical stuff as well as some thought processes as I work. But yeah, if you guys got any questions before I go, throw them down in the chat. But other than that, I'm just going to spend a little bit more time cleaning house on this leaf, and then I'll bounce on out of here. But thank you guys all for coming, for hanging out. I really appreciate it. So I'm not just sitting here talking to myself, which is what it feels like sometimes. But yeah, thanks guys. I do appreciate you coming in here and hanging out. Got a lot of geometry happening on this leaf that's not very friendly. Really grody geometry. That's okay though. I'm gonna do a real big move brush and adjust that. So we can get some nice bend in there. All the S-curves, right? S-curves are king. So, no, I didn't finish Bell Sprout, but we did have fun with our KOFFING up here, and I'll add a few more tweaks and changes to him as well, and I'll post some renders of him later. In a future stream, I'll definitely show you some stuff about my render process for directly inside of ZBrush. But it'll probably be a little bit more simplified version just because of time constraints and all that. I also use Keyshot for rendering, so maybe we'll do that in the future as well. But I've been really getting into the ZBrush render lately and trying to get more acclimated to using that more often. So we'll see what we do. But thanks guys. Let's see, second time watching, and I really like it. Awesome. Thanks so much guys. It's very nice of you. Thank you. I have to go. This was great again. Thanks. Well, I'm glad you stopped by. I'm glad I could help out. I'm also saying bye-bye as well. So I'll see you guys. Thanks again for coming. I'll talk to you guys in the next stream. If you don't follow me on social media and you want to know when I'm about to stream, you can follow me there, or I guess follow me on YouTube or subscribe or whatever it's called. That's how you can get notified, I believe. I don't know. I actually don't know entirely how it works. That's why I always post on social media, just to make sure you guys hear. So follow me wherever. Just so you know, if you want to know that I'm streaming. I'll see you guys.